I want to thank everyone for their questions. I'll try to go through these one by each, and then if they have other questions in the comment box, I'll try to get to those as well. So when will we know if schools are going back in September? That is the $10,000 question this week. We are hopeful that we will be coming back. It really depends on, we're still waiting for the governor's guidance for schools. You're as frustrated as we are at this point. It's, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. It's getting very close to when we need to start planning for summer, for fall, and what that'll look like. But we are planning on, schools are going to open in September. It's just in what version we will be. Will be fully remote? Will we be some sort of blended? I kind of find it hard to believe that we would be open, where you have 1,000 kids walking into the high school all at once at 7 o'clock in the morning. So that is problematic. So we are actually kind of planning for multiple scenarios at this point, and I'll actually come to that. But school will start in September. The big question is, what will school look like in September? Will it be remote? Will we start remote and go into kind of a blended? And what I mean by blended is perhaps children come for a day or part of a day, but not all of the children every day. If you look at the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC guidelines that were out about 3 weeks ago, they talked about maintaining 6 feet of distancing, wearing masks, not having kids sit in the cafeteria together, structured, spread out playground time, but really trying to recreate the social distancing that we're trying to use at this point. And honestly, it comes down to where we are when we get there. The problem, I keep telling people what we've accomplished at this point in time is quote unquote flattening the curve or reducing the number of infections because of isolation and social distancing. We still do not have an effective treatment. We still do not have a vaccine. We have not defeated the virus, and I think that's important for people to remember. So it's very important that the guidelines that are being given about social distancing, wearing masks, washing hands, only going out if you need to go out, all of those are extremely important, because if we do not progress or keep our numbers down, then we're going to slide back to an earlier phase. So this is part of why it's very difficult to say what September is going to look like. It might be where we are sitting right now, where we have some sort of, kids not actually coming into schools and teachers trying to teach remotely. It could be some sort of blended piece. It could be more like what it is now with higher numbers, maybe half of a class in a classroom. But right now, I find it hard to believe that we would have 25 in a classroom at the same time. So this next one, I'm going to assume that Tony Mizuko sent this next question in, because it says, on a scale of 9 to 10, with 9 being awesome and 10 being amazing, how would you rate the town manager? So if this is Tony, if it's not, I want to appreciate the sense of humor here, but I'm going to start off by saying I am not the expert on judging town managing, if you will. So I don't feel that I'm fully qualified to do that assessment. I will say that it is a pleasure to work with a town manager who understands the value of quality of schools. That is someone you can work with when you have a problem. I can go to him. He can help me. When he has a problem, he comes to me. I try to help him. It's been very, very collaborative. It's a good relationship. We do give each other a hard time, which is perfectly acceptable. But it's a good working relationship. Both of us, I think, are focused on, improving what we're doing in the town of Norwood. Not that it has not been great before, but I think that collaboration is making us stronger. When you look at the meals program, when you look at the food pantry, when you look at our bus drivers helping out the senior center, when you look at these sorts of collaborations to serve the town, I think that kind of cooperation is setting the stage for that starts at the top. So I do appreciate our town manager. On a personal level, he does make me laugh at times, but I would have a hard time, whether to give him a 9 or a 10. Summer camp, specifically Challenger. Any ideas when they were open? So the governor did say that we probably would be able in phase 2 to open summer camps, which Challenger would be. Again, still waiting for exact guidance for what that would be. And that affects us as well. We don't know what kind of summer programming we're really going to be able to offer and when that will be. And again, the virus is going to dictate when we can get into these different phases. Right now, we're planning on kind of starting with a remote only scenario for those students who need extended school year. But that might morph into something, in August if things go well. So as soon as we know, and I know that Travis Farley and the Recreation Department are also working on that and working on several conversations. We had preliminary conversations about having more sites, maybe at the elementary schools, and spreading them out so we have less numbers. But again, that's dependent on the guidance that we're still waiting for. How will we address sanitation practices within the schools, specifically shared spaces, computer rooms, physical education classes, bathrooms, etc.? So I'm going to go back to the CDC guidelines first and talk a little bit about how they really are talking about keeping a small number of students in one classroom for the day, and those are the only students that are interacting together. So that is going to take away the common area problem to some point in time, to some extent. But we are going to, have to increase our sanitation on a daily basis, and that is, that's going to come with an increased cost, and we're going to need to figure out how to do that within our budget. Again, we don't know whether that will be every day we're able to do that. Very well, we could be in a situation where we start off in a blended and we're sanitizing, and then, we have to shut down schools or the numbers go too high and we flip back to remote and then we're back in blended. So it's going to be kind of a roller coaster ride. But we have already started talking about disinfection. We are trying to, at this point in time, clear out some monies that we have not currently spent, and part of that is because of the shutdown and whatnot. And we need to purchase some of those sanitation pieces and the PPE, the personal protective equipment, now, because otherwise we won't have it in time. So we're working hard on that right now. So Dr. Thomson, hopefully the state's reopening plans will proceed as desired, but without complications. But should there be a second wave of COVID-19 in the fall and in the country, at the very least, schools in Mass are ordered to once again school from home. What's being done to prepare for a much improved experience come this fall? So this also gets into, current level of education, may not be the best possible. So, I think we need to come to the realization that, and I think I've said it before, a child walking into a brick and mortar school, into a classroom with their teacher, is how we provide childhood education. That has been shown to be the best way to do it. That is how all of our teachers were trained to do it. So, we quickly had to adjust to a different mode. Online learning works well with adults, college students, much older students. The lower you go, the more difficult it goes, because the motivation in learning actually comes from human interaction. And it's also hard for our teachers, and I've said this to several people that are working in the schools, that the teachers are missing that reinforcement, that positive effect that they get from their students. And if you haven't taught, it's very hard to explain, but that's Popeye's spinach. That's the thing that keeps you going, is having those breakthroughs, seeing a kid being succeeding, affecting someone in a positive way. Those are the things that make the difference for teachers. Those are our energy pills. I think of the Pac-Man going around and chewing on the little yellow pills, and getting the energy. That's what it does for teachers, and it's the same for the kids. It's easier to motivate if you can move next to them, redirect them, you know, and that sort of thing. So as you go younger, it gets more and more difficult. But the question actually is about what are we doing? So we are looking at right now, kind of redesigning our remote learning and designing it in a way that it would be able to flex from an in-person or partially in-person model to a remote model, being perhaps more project-based, focusing on the essential standards in an interdisciplinary way. And we're going to be in the process of putting together teams to design units of instruction for that. And that's a general concept at this point in time, because we need to get the grade level experts together. We just got notified what our CARES Act funding will be for schools, using some of that money. Some of our, part of the law changes was being able to carry over grant money from this year into next year, using some of that money going forward to pay teachers to design those units for grade levels so that we can be flexible. It's more hands-on, it's more project-based, and more engaging. Again, this is all being invented as we are progressing. This is not something that there is a book out there for to look at how to do this. We're learning on the fly. This is not the way any of us envisioned delivering this level of education. Will graduation ceremonies be reconsidered in light of lifting some of the quarantine restrictions? So right now we can have gatherings of 10. And again, the virus and our behavior as a society is going to dictate. I just saw Tony Mizuko's. Yeah, I was right. Tony did answer this question. Ask that town manager question, you rat. Anyway, so how we behave and how the virus reacts is going to influence when that can happen, and we cannot predict that. So as far as revisiting it, and there's several things to consider. First of all, I want to kind of go back and talk about the process that Dr. Galligan and his team put together. Once it became apparent that we were not going to be coming back, and we were not going to be, because we all held out hope that was going to be the case. No one is, I can tell you, from administrators to teachers to students everywhere, no one is particularly happy about having, these end of year celebrations disrupted. No one envisioned this. No one wants this. There is definitely a grieving piece going on for everybody involved. But Dr. Galligan brought together a team, including the class officers, and talked about different options that included the Board of Health, that included the police department, the administration, class advisors, the class officers, the students who were elected to run that class. The senior class was then asked, what are the important factors that are important that you have in a graduation? And I'm sure I'm going to miss some of those, but it was to be able to go up, be announced, your future plans, your family being able to come see, having something at the school. That's an important piece of it. Having the speeches. So there was this, wearing their cap and gown. Those were all important things. Every single piece, well, not every single piece. There's one piece that we are missing, and that is the last piece where we throw the caps. But every single piece that the students have said was important to them to have in a graduation when we polled the senior class is part of this graduation. Is it exactly the same? No. There's actually some pieces of it that actually are kind of more celebratory than what we normally do. But looking forward, to say we're not going to have graduation, we're going to wait, also disenfranchise a certain segment of the senior class, because you have people going into the military, you have people who are moving, you have people who are starting college early, so you are disenfranchising some of those folks. So will we revisit? Yeah, and I think perhaps being able to bring the class, if we're able to bring and we've also made a commitment to bring this class together, to have some sort of celebration of the class of 2020 when it's safe to do so. Presently, we were looking kind of like Columbus Day weekend, October, hopefully. If that happens in August, we would do that in August. Maybe we do that in August, and maybe we're able to do the the cap, throwing of the caps and that sort of piece. Maybe there's another piece that we're able to bring in. We don't know that right now. We don't know if that will really be a possibility. So at this point, we're planning to go with our graduation, and if we can do something in August, and then we will do something in August. And I said from the beginning, if that is the time that colleges are able to do their orientations, then you're kind of competing for those few weekends in August before school starts. So, and again, the virus is going to determine that, and I hold out hope that things will be less restrictive at some point soon. But also being a science major, my first degree is in biology. And the process it takes to have a vaccine, and the fact that we still do not have an effective treatment, I'm concerned about that. So will there be summer enrichment programs? Again, I'm not sure we're going to be able to offer summer enrichment, but again, we're still waiting for guidance from the state on that. Will Nichols Street be blocked off? I'm assuming you're talking about for graduation, and I believe it probably will be blocked off, yes. So we are limiting the traffic in and out of the high school on the graduation, which is a week from Sunday, to those families that are in the cars that are doing the police escorted tour up to the high school to process in front of the high school. The graduate will get out of the car at the high school, go up, have their name announced, what their future plans are, get their diploma, climb back in the car, and then move on. And everything else that whole thing is being simulcast, by the way. So you can watch it from home. You don't need to, please don't go to the high school because it's going to cause social distancing problems. But the speeches, the opening, all those things are being recorded and simulcast, and the people in the car will be able to, if you have a cell phone, a smartphone, be able to watch that. I tell people that we have the world's greatest local cable station, NCM, and they are partnering with us on that as well. Will Extended Day be able to offer summer camp in phase 2? If we're in phase 2, we are looking at that. But again, the other piece is just because you're allowed to offer summer camp, the spacing options allow for it to actually run. So those are the particulars we're still waiting for. Wondering if Norwood Extended Day will be treated as emergency childcare as opposed to camp, since it's more daycare than camp anyway. Well, emergency childcare, and I could be wrong on this, was for first responders and essential workers. So I'm not quite sure we would qualify for that. Our extended day program, although it is daycare-esque, does not fall under the state authority for daycares. It falls under schools. So that might be a hard case to make, but if we can do that, we will. So I'm looking at the next question. I'm wondering about the fall. If you can't know for sure, but is it likely continuing remote learning? I think I've addressed that one. Can you discuss what a drop in state aid would look like this school year as well as the year after? Is there anything we can do or anyone we should contact to lobby for no reduction in state aid? It really depends. Well, yeah, I mean, a drop in state aid is not going to be good news for what we are trying to accomplish here. So we would prefer not to have any state aid. So right now we're not actually, there was a meeting between the Superintendent's Association and the chairpersons of the Ways and Means committees up on Beacon Hill. They are still talking about numbers from the state coming out and a budget number coming from the state in July. And part of that is, they want to see what the real numbers are. Does the partial reopening, phase 1, phase 2, does that cause more revenue for the state than we saw in April? We won't know that yet. The other piece that's out there is the federal stimulus, that second wave that is being discussed at this point in time. If that comes through, we might not see a drop in numbers at all. But that could mean everything from not being able to do our plan for really trying to improve special ed to the extent that we want to. There's certain things that we want to do professionally to improve our instructional practice and our tools that we're using that are part of our plans. Those might need to get scaled back. So again, if it's a couple 100,000, I mean, that's going to be a challenge, especially when you start looking at what could possibly be increased costs around cleaning classrooms, cleaning buses, perhaps more buses, all of those sorts of things. Okay, next one. Will students have access to the online learning platforms over the summer? Hang on, let me get rid of that. Sometimes I wonder why we still have a house phone. No one actually answers it. All right, so will schools provide any support for parents trying to figure out childcare for September? If we have a partial schedule, extended day is not an option. It will be complicated. Yeah, that is the big challenge. And while we're outside, we might be able to do more with that. But we'll have to go back to that, and again, once we know more, we will try to do whatever we can. Will students have access to the online learning platforms, Lexia, Freckle? Yes, and actually, the state is talking about requiring and providing a assessment tool. However, we actually, through the override, have our own that informs our use of Freckle. We will be using that. This is not a grade thing. We know that things are disruptive, and all we've asked for people to do is the best that they can do. But that will inform those online platforms, which we intend to be individualized and available and used with students over the summer. And that is going to be a key feature for all of you to make sure that your kids are engaging with that. So we don't see any more regression, and we're trying to keep those skills, perhaps even building on them. I think I answered that question. Will the schools reopen in the fall if there's still an outbreak? No. I mean, so the model that was actually being presented by the state before the overall closure was that the state was saying close individual schools, not entire districts. So and again, back to the daycare problem and disruption. This is going to be, possibly could be a roller coaster where you might not have school at the high school on a given day because of some sort of outbreak or someone being maybe having the virus there. Meanwhile, the Balch around the corner is open and operating. So it's it's going to be a constant. This is open, that's open, closed for 2 days, open for a while. We might see an outbreak where we go to remote learning, which is again why we're trying to look at curriculum that is adaptable in multiple situations. Yeah, and the whole thing about and the second part of this, you're going to work with families who feel safer. For various reasons, they might have a child with a that's in a high risk category, or live with a parent or grandparent who is a high risk category. Yes, I mean, we're going to have to. Just because we open the schools does not mean that every single person is going to be able to come. We're probably going to have to deal with that level of the same thing with some staff as well. So, it's going to be difficult. And then the other part of this question is, students who have sensory issues, who have trouble wearing masks. Maybe they wear a face shield. I'm not going to pretend to be, the health department or the nursing department, but that's something we're going to have to address. And again, we're still waiting. I'm hopeful that those would be in the guidelines that we would see coming from the DESA. All right, so here I am. I'm actually now on the third page. Summer reading for seniors. That actually, so I believe all of our summer programming will eventually be on the websites. So that's where you should look for those. I don't know as if they've been. I don't foresee the and I know at the high school it really depends on which classes you're taking, which books you're supposed to read. But you could probably look and see what was offered last year if you want to try to get an idea. I'm sure that information is probably still on the webpage, but I'm sure it would be updated. The other question was about 8th grade promotion ceremonies, and I believe that there was a plan that came out in the Mustang Minute. I only breezed by it this past Monday, but they are talking about a parade and also and also an awards piece virtually, I believe, the day before. So, that information is going to be coming out. It's still, almost a month away at this point, so I wouldn't get too concerned with that. But I think they're looking at the 17th and the 18th for those two pieces. And again, I wish that I wish that we weren't having to to do that. So I just got a correction on saying that Nickel Street blocking it off for graduation is still kind of undetermined, but Norwood Police is working on a plan, and that graduation is not open to live spectators. You can watch. You will be able to watch the entire thing, including the valedictorian speech, Dr. Galligan's speech, the president's welcome. All those things, will be simulcast along with each graduating senior having their name read, their future plans. That is going to be simulcast from NCM. So please don't go to the high school. Please turn on NCM, and again, you'll be able to stream that directly to a device if you don't particularly have cable TV or whatnot. So Dr. Frazek just chimed in that virtual awards and a parade at CMS and it is the 17th and the 18th. Tony Mizuko's, so sorry you missed my. You'll have to go back and watch this. The other question that I keep getting from people is why don't we do this with Zoom or something else? The only other option would be maybe YouTube or something along that line. The problem with Zoom, I don't know if you saw some of the Zoom bombings that went out. So if we had a meeting notice and we published that idea, anyone could come in and disrupt that and throw, put inappropriate things up there or say inappropriate things or things, and we don't want to go to that point in time. You don't actually have to have a Facebook account. You can just go to the page and not sign in, for Norwood Public Schools and watch. You wouldn't be able to comment or ask a question, but you can do that. And the other thing is that they've talked me into not only doing these, but also downloading them and sharing them with MCM so that they can play them afterwards. And that's part of my rationale for asking for questions ahead of time, is simply so that if someone doesn't have a Facebook account, they could put those in. So right now, I'm not seeing any other questions. Again, everybody's asking the same, when are we going to know? And trust me, the teachers are asking the same questions. The administrators are asking the same questions. It's all, we're going to know when we're going to know. And I cannot predict what September will look like standing here the end of May. It depends on how well people continue to social distance. Um, we're frustrated because educators are planners, um, but we are we're going to plan with what we can plan, which is looking at a model of instruction that would function um, that would function both in a remote setting and in a blended setting and in a one-to-one setting. So theoretically, and this is only theory at this point, we have not fleshed this out. This is not written in stone, but you have, and again, we have those essential standards that the DESE has said these are the very, very important standards that we have to master. Focusing in on those grade level standards, designing a unit where kids work on pieces of those standards in a thematic approach, producing some sort of project in multiple ways to do that. So the kid would come in, if it's blended, a kid would come in, get some sort of feedback on their work up to this point, get some instructions, so then they could go home and work on that project independently. Other teachers would be meeting with those students, and so we are kind of looking at, although they might have a teacher, um, they might have a teacher, they probably will be taught by multiple teachers just because of the model we might be in. We don't know that right now, but we're thinking that might very well be a possibility. So I'm seeing some questions coming through. Elementary kids find out who their teachers may be for next year. Yes, you would do that. I would say that would be maybe their primary teacher, but not their only teacher, depending on grade level. Obviously, teams of the high school or teams of the middle school or teams of the middle school. High school might be very different with that because high school kids can be much more independent. I think the checking in will be important. How we divvy that up, I'm not quite sure. That's going to be a huge task. But if you're taking biology, you might work with 3 different biology teachers, on your biology, just based on the model we need to go on. So last day of school is still Monday the 22nd. If you remember, it was going to be that Friday, and we did the 4 days over April vacation. So that would be the last day of school. So anything for 5th graders, they are planning some things for 5th graders. I would contact your school principal probably next week and ask it at that point in time. They will have to follow the same social distancing guidelines that we're doing. Right now, the priority has been to not only get the remote learning out, but also to work on planning going forward. And we have some budget questions we're working on, so we have not really finalized all those, but they should be coming soon. Will there be any testing in June for any of the grades? We're planning on using the Renaissance assessment tool, but that's early June or mid-June, and using that to create individual summer work, if you will, around the online tools that you've been using. We're not giving finals or anything along that line. Again, this is kind of a pass-fail, credit, no credit sort of scenario. We realize that we're all in the situation where it's difficult. It's more difficult when you get to younger grades. So hopefully I answered that one. Will there be a place to ask graduation questions? I'm assuming that you're talking about high school graduation, and I would send an email or make a call to either the class advisor or to Dr. Galligan or Mrs. Durain. K going to one place will be sent out over the summer by elementary principals. K will be sent out over the summer by Mrs. Robbins. CMS has assessment week early June, try to gauge where kids are. And, the state is actually has been discussing and is actually working. They don't say with who, but I have my suspicions, with someone to do an assessment at the end of the year. And again, we want kids to come in independently, do the best they can. This is not whether you get an A or a B. This is just do the best you can, so we have a good idea as to where you are, so we can help plan to make sure you're in the right place. That's all it is. That's all it is. And it's not going to be perfect, because it's, normally you walk into a classroom and it pulls out their Chromebook and does it at once. That's not what we're doing. So they will have times they're supposed to do it, and please, try to conform with that, and just have your child do your best. That's it. Just do your best. Will extended year be happening for those on IEPs? Yes. If those students were, getting end of year services, or scheduled to get that, or looking like they were a candidate for regression before the break, then yes. So right now we're struggling with trying to design what that is, and the big struggle is, students who have learning disabilities have a very difficult time doing a lot of this work remotely, and but we might have to start in that mode, and we don't know yet. We have not received the guidance, but that's where we're going to start. Okay. All right. So I don't think I have any other news. Mrs. Colosimo, who's the awesome administrative assistant at the high school, is saying that more info is on the way, and to stay tuned. So we have something to look forward to. All right. So I'll schedule another one of these in a couple weeks, which could mean a ton of changes between now and then. And we will. I'll keep trying to answer your questions and try to make sure people are informed. It's a little difficult without being able to do face-to-face stuff nowadays, but this has been a good vehicle to try to answer some of those questions. So stay well, stay safe. Please, make sure your kids are doing well. Say hi to them for me. It's absolutely, and talking about that affirmation of what we do, and not being able to go visit a classroom is hard, even for the superintendent. It's usually the highlight of my day, getting into a classroom and seeing my students working with the incredible teachers that we have, and to not be able to do that, really, it's hard. It really is hard. So, and I know it's hard being home with them too. Maybe right now, when you think of teachers and what it takes to curve and contain 20 some odd young people at one time, you can the skill, you get an appreciation for the skill set. But we're very lucky. I'm very proud of the teaching staff. They've done an incredible job, working really hard, really reinventing everything they've ever learned or ever done before. So I appreciate your patience. Stay well, stay healthy, keep social distancing so we can get to phase 2 and phase 3 sooner rather than later. Wash those hands, and just, remember what's important, and give each other a hug, as long as it's someone in your immediate family and you can do it with social distancing. But thank you all for tuning in, and have a good night.